Potent Productivity Podcast, where we pull back the curtain and dive into the real emotional journeys behind entrepreneurship. We're your hosts, Sarah
and Robert, and we know that building a business isn't just about crushing your to-do list or chasing overnight success. It's about navigating the ups and downs and unexpected turns that come with following your passion.
We're not here to sell you easy wins or rehearse the same tired success stories you've heard 1,000 times. We're here to talk about the moments when enthusiasm is buried beneath a mountain of tasks, when self-doubt creeps in, and when you're not sure where your road leads next.
So each week, we'll share raw conversations, real lessons, and practical strategies to help you reconnect with your creativity, build resilience, and rediscover what excited you about your business in the first place.
If you're ready for honest talk, community, and actionable inspiration, you're in the right place. Let's get real. Let's reclaim your potent productivity together. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Potent Productivity Podcast. I'm your co-host, I'm Sarah Pitts, and this is my fellow co-host, Robert Kabeka. Hey, Robert.
Hey there. Happy day.
Yeah. So welcome to another podcast episode. I love these. They're so interesting. And today we're talking about how self-acceptance can dismantle imposter syndrome and help build rapport with your potential customers. So let's dive in. All right.
It's going to be a great conversation.
Yeah. You and I, we have lots of conversations about energy and mood and behavior and things like that. And I think what most people don't recognize is that energy and mood and behavior can be really infectious. And that can be a good thing, but it can also be a really bad thing. So examples of mood changing based on someone else, right? So I can tell, I don't know if you can tell, but I can definitely tell if somebody's in a bad mood when I walk into a room.
Yep. Easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah. They don't even have to say anything. You just know that they're in a bad mood. And if that person is allowed to stay in that bad mood, then everybody else in the room's mood comes down to match that person. It's partly why big companies often give people who want to leave, they ask them to leave straight away, but they'll pay them for they call it gardening leave over here, and they'll pay them for like 2 weeks or something, just to get them out of the building so that they don't infect everybody else with their misery of wanting to stay or, not wanting to stay. So, yeah. What's your experience with that?
Yeah, no, it was right spot on. Because, I think it can work both ways, but yeah, it's like when there's somebody who has a negative attitude and they are unwilling to pay attention to it and do something about it, then their persistent intention of keeping that negative attitude will definitely spread because every conversation that they have is going to be talking something bad about something. And I've experienced this in all different areas of my life. When I had when I had the restaurant, and things were going really horrible there, I'd be calling friends and family and talking to them, and it's like they wanted to stop taking my calls because I had nothing good to say.
Yeah.
And it's like, but your family, you're supposed to take my call. And it's like, well, you need to change what you're talking about. We know things are tough and we want to support you, but it's your attitude that has to change, and self-pity is not a path, is not a solution. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I had a patient actually that was very similar, and they had back pain, and they'd had this back pain for decades. And it took me ages to realize that I didn't actually want to be pain-free because he was so invested in moaning about his pain and all the sympathy he was getting from all the people around him that were like, oh, poor you, back pain must be horrible, blah, blah. That attention that he was getting, he just didn't want to be pain-free. Yeah. And I'm like, oh. So all these people that he'd been consistently complaining to, probably trying their best to help him feel better. And then eventually they're just like, oh, no, you obviously don't want to feel better. stop talking to me, you know? Yeah.
And the other side too, as a business owner, I've managed many employees, hundreds of employees, and there have been absolutely times, multiple times, when you just have an employee who's just, negative Nancy, as
Hmm.
always. And it's just like they have nothing good to say about their job, about anything. It's like, wait a minute, I'm paying you to work for me with a good attitude to influence good results for our clients and customers, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm.
What can I do to help you? What's wrong? What is wrong, that you're complaining about, really? Because first of all, we all know that when we complain about something, that's not the real problem,
Yeah.
right? We got to go down a couple layers to get to the real problem.
Yes. Yeah.
And but I mean, I've had to make that choice where it's just like, I'm sorry, you got to go,
Hmm.
because they were unwilling to change, right? And they were impacting the perspective, the attitudes of my other employees.
Yeah.
So instead of, like, for example, one time he was like, this one guy, his attitude was so bad that the other employees were spending so much time trying to figure out how they were going to deal with him
Hmm.
and taking away their ability to do their work. And this was through a government contract and what have you. So it's like, you can't just like fire somebody just like that. You've got to go through this process, and you've got to write them
Yeah.
up, and you got to give them coaching, and you got to give them, and it takes time. And it's like, great, so we got to deal with this for 30 days. Hopefully they're going to change. But this person didn't change. So it was like 30 days of this person's negativity, and even worse negativity, because now they felt attacked because they were being coached to improve.
Yeah. 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 And it's funny, like we
You
as
know,
human beings, we try and pacify people, we try and, make things better for everybody. And dogs do exactly the same thing. If
yeah.
there's a pack of dogs and there's one that has, it feels unsafe or it feels, like it's out of sorts or it's angry or whatever, the other dogs will attack that dog to
Mm.
kind of, address the issue and be like, you can't have that behavior around here because the the overall piece of the pack is more important than that individual dog.
And
So,
of course, we don't want to go around attacking people to
well, of
change
course
their
not, no.
attitudes.
No, but the point that I bring up about this, the fact that this energy and the mood is infectious, is
Yeah.
because if you don't believe in yourself, so if you have this imposter syndrome, right, if you're not sure about yourself, it comes from a place of doubt,
Yeah.
right? And that sense of doubt creates hesitation, it creates uncertainty, and it definitely creates a lack of confidence in you. So when you're presenting yourself as a solo business owner to your potential customers, and they feel this hesitation and they feel this uncertainty and they feel this lack of confidence, then they start to believe those things about you too, because it's infectious.
Yes,
So
exactly.
if you're presenting yourself in a way that's doubtful to your customers, then you're giving them that impression of you that's translating into their mindset of their decisions about you and your business. And if there's any whiff of doubt, then those customers will not buy from you. They'll move on and you know, they'll just find a different reason not to buy from you, or they'll, just find somebody else, or, I mean, that's happened to me loads of times. And I didn't even know that that was the problem.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, back to the other comment, the comments, about the dogs attacking the weaker dog, or the, what have you. It's like there are, managers and executives who will treat employees, like muck,
Mm-hmm.
that they don't like, and what happens, like, instead of trying to coach them positively, or whatever, they are attacking them. And the problem is now all the other employees are looking at this manager, how they're treating that employee. So now these other employees are, feeling impacted by this one employee. Now they're also feeling impacted by this manager and
Yeah.
their perspective. And it's like, that's just a disaster
Yes,
ready to
and
happen.
I suppose that's the advantage of being a solo business owner is you don't have any of those office politics.
Well, and as a solo business owner, it's like we hope that we grow, and we
Mhm.
hope that at some point we do get, our first executive assistant or what have
Yeah.
you, somebody who can, do the work that is taking away from our time to be productive, that type of thing, the
Mhm.
monotonous work, what have you. But the point is, it's like you're right. When we start out as a solopreneur, how are we treating ourselves when
Mhm.
things aren't going well, right? And back to that self-doubt, and our own self-awareness, because there's more than one of us in here.
Yes.
And they're always having conversations with each other. And
Yes.
no, that doesn't mean that you're crazy at
No.
all. It's just how our human psyche works.
Mhm.
90%, it's funny, they did this, I don't know how they did this study, but like over 90% of our thoughts are conversations that we're having with ourselves,
That doesn't
as
surprise me
opposed
at all.
as opposed to as opposed to pure creativity thoughts,
Yeah.
type of thing. So anyhow, not to go down that rabbit hole, but yeah, self-doubt and feeling like a fraud, it's like when I don't feel good about myself, you know, how is that affecting my ability to show up for myself, to serve myself, to bring the best of me into my client engagements, into what I'm creating, into what I'm producing.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
it's a big
there's a
question.
TV show over here at the moment that's really popular right now, and it's called The Traitors. And the premise of the show is that there's like, I don't know, 15 or 20 people, and the three of the people are hidden traitors, right? So they are the villains, and it's their job to try and kill off all of the other people that they call the faithfuls, right? So the point is, at the end of the show, there's like the game stops when there's two people left, and if the traitors, if there's one of the people who's a traitor, then they win, right? But so throughout the show, the whole point is that all the faithfuls have got to try and guess who the traitors are and then get rid of them. They choose people to boot off the show, you know.
Ah,
But the reasons why they're choosing these certain people is so arbitrary, and they so believe so much that these people are traitors when they're completely wrong, but they don't know that. But there are these arbitrary reasons. But the thing that has come out most recently from the show, I mean, I think there's 3 or 4 seasons of it now, and celebrity versions as well. And every person who's won it, who was a traitor or the traitors in general, have all said how tiring it is to be lying or pretending to be somebody you're not, and how hurtful it is to them that they're creating these bonds with these people, but they're totally faking it. Or
yeah,
they're trying to connect with these people and they think they're getting to know them, and then they're, betraying them at the end, and they find out that they're traitors. And it's just, even if you do manage to pretend to somebody else that you know what you're talking about, or you're, confident when you're not, and all the rest of it, the only person who's going to lose out is you,
right,
because it's
right.
tiring pretending like that.
Yes. Wow, wow. And I know how exhausting that is, and it's like, the word people pleasing comes up,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like we want to be liked, we want to be loved, we want to be validated, we want to be accepted, we wanted all these things. And sometimes we think that we need to be someone other than who we are. We have to be inauthentic to get that desire fulfilled that we really want,
Mm,
and we go through the craziest cartwheels to make it happen. Some of us have even started businesses, on that false pretense.
mhm.
Oh, if I start this business, it's like people will love me and I'll be accepted and I'll be valid and, validated and all these things. And, I'll find a husband and all these I created all these things, it's like, oh, if I create this business, it's going to be like, but then, it's like, it wasn't a business that I wanted to be in. I'm not going to name the business. It wasn't a business I wanted to be in, and it was a business where, fake it till you make it. I was faking it all the time,
Yeah.
because what I wanted was so important to me, but the way that I was going about getting what I wanted was so inauthentic, so exhausting, so tiring, so defeating,
Mm.
you know, to thine own self be true, to thine own self be kind.
Mhm.
When we're not being true to ourselves, when we're not being kind to ourselves, when we are being a fraud to ourselves, we can't fool ourselves.
No.
We try really hard to fool ourselves, but we can't because there's a part of ourselves that knows the truth.
Yeah. And I
And
think
as long
most of
as
the
we're
time,
not, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think most of the time, most people can tell when you're not being
Oh,
authentic.
yeah. And then you have to try harder to convince them.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then guess what? It's like I end up feeling lonely, disregarded, rejected, outcast, and feel like I'm broken. There's
Hmm.
something wrong with me.
Oh,
There
yeah.
wasn't something, yeah. But it's really important to say, that there is no such thing as a broken human being. We just have our values in the wrong place. What's important to us is in the wrong place, in the wrong alignment.
Mhm.
We can be very hurt, and I like to say we're not broken because we don't have to be fixed. We just need to be adjusted a little bit. Because
Yeah.
that's what we call alignment, right?
Yeah.
Through your physical training, and everything else like that, when our spine's in alignment, my God, we feel like $1 million,
Hmm.
right? As
Yeah.
opposed to I'm just like sitting here like this all day long, and wondering why I feel like garbage. One of the first things that we do is to change our posture to feel better. So if I'm feeling like a fraud, what is the posture, the internal posture that I can realign so that I feel authentic?
Yeah. And it's interesting because that you say that because the thing that springs to mind is body language, and you cannot really fake how you think when your body is reflecting how you think and how you stand and how you sit and how you speak to people.
Yeah.
It's like that one. It's like the one question, isn't it, when somebody says, "How are you?" and you rip the head off because you're frustrated by something completely different. And they're like, "Okay, I only asked a question." And you're like,
Yeah,
"I'm fine." you know. Yeah, it's really hard to
exactly.
disguise it. And when you
Of
have
course.
physical pain, people protect it and the body kind of comes rounded back in on itself when it's
Yeah.
protecting things. But when you feel emotional pain, it does that through here. And when you
Yeah.
feel it through your gut as well. So people
Yeah.
slouch, they hold themselves differently. So if you're on a video, you're trying to make out like everything's okay with your life and it isn't, then people can see that. And they don't
Yeah.
believe you.
Right.
And it's not because of what you're saying, it's because of how you're being.
Right.
So I think the most important thing, the most important point today is not um, that your behavior is infectious. It's that if you want to change how people think of you need to change how you think of yourself.
Yes.
And
Yes.
they say that, in business, your potential customers, they want to know, like, and trust you. So
Yes.
they need to feel like they know you. They need to like what you're saying and who you are generally, and they need to trust that you know what you're doing or that you can lead them where they want to go. And if you don't know yourself, you don't particularly like yourself, and then don't trust yourself either because you don't believe you can take somebody else where they think they want to go. People will know that.
Yeah.
So you have to know, like, and trust yourself first before you can expect anybody else to do that.
And it's like how we started the podcast, it's like as soon as somebody walks in the room, you can know if they're not feeling well.
Hmm.
You can know if they're sad or upset or mad or whatever, and it's like when we look at, you know, how do we know, like, and trust ourselves? You know, when we're working so hard as a solopreneur and we're not getting the results we want and we're feeling down about that.
Mm.
And then we start to feel like, is this ever going to end? Am I ever going to make it? Is
Hmm.
this ever going to work? And so when we start bringing that negative energy, that doubtful, I won't call it negative energy, I'll call it doubtful. And when we bring that doubtful energy,
Hmm.
it affects everything that we do. Like you said, when you record yourself on video, it affects how we write, our content, our social media presence. It affects our one-to-one conversations with potential clients and interviews and everything else like that. So what do we do to change how we think about ourselves without defrauding ourselves? Because the last thing we want to do is fake it till you make it. If
Oh,
I believe, what's that?
I was just agreeing with you. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like if I believe that I'm a fraud and all I'm going to do is throw positive affirmations at it, I'm going to feel worse because I know I'm lying to myself now,
Absolutely. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
It's like, oh, I mean, affirmations are brilliant when they're used properly, but people just think that if I say this enough, I'll start to believe it and everything will change. No, that's not how
No.
affirmations work.
Hmm.
You have to step into the state of that affirmation being completely fulfilled in order for that affirmation to have a positive impact in your life.
Yeah.
That's how affirmations work. So if you feel like you're a fraud, what can we do to change that belief, right?
Mm.
And there are, if I go down the NLP, neuro-linguistic programming path for a minute,
Yeah.
we have something called scope and category. Scope is when we have bad things happen. Category is how I feel about those things. And so all these things are like little databases. So I have a database of good things and a database of bad things, a database of fraud things,
Mm.
right? And it's
Hmm.
like I've done a great job of putting every time I felt like a fraud into one database, so I'm going to keep that database. But that's an ineffective, inefficient database because it's only looking at one thing. It's not looking at the entire thing.
Mm.
Self-esteem doesn't come by convincing ourselves that we're good people or convincing ourselves that we're supposed to feel good about ourselves. Self-esteem is a direct result of when our behaviors align with our values
Hmm.
in a situation. Then we feel good about ourselves. It's natural. It's not something that's forced or anything else like that.
Mm.
It happens effortlessly. So if I'm feeling like a fraud, then there is a behavior that I'm engaged with that's causing me to feel that's against my values, or there's a set of values that are against my behavior. That's why I'm not feeling the way that I think I should be feeling.
Mm.
So it's just a simple matter of looking at my values, what's important to me. Values are just beliefs and what's important.
Mm.
And behavior is a behavior. So I can change a behavior to match my values, or I can change my values to match my behavior, and then I'll feel good. And the other important thing about this is that we never have the same value structure for the same scenario, the same situation. We don't. It's like bringing a map of London to Paris. Good luck.
Yeah.
You have a different set of values about your husband,
Mhm.
your partner. You have a different set of values about what's important to you about your companion, your doggy. You have a different set of values, about your business. You have a different set of value, and in every one of these, we have a different set of values. And when those values are misaligned, or when my behavior is misaligned, I am going to feel out of alignment. So I can feel like a fraud. I can feel worthless. I can feel like a piece of garbage. I can feel blah, 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 blah. All those things. So those things are not the truth about who I am as a human being. They're only true about how my behaviors are being aligned with my values.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. I just kind of rambled on there for a little bit, but it's really important to distinguish that me, as a human being, am not broken. Me, as a human being, am not bad. and I don't need to be fixed. I need to look at my values and my behaviors and understand that what I feel is a result of that misalignment. And if I change the alignment, I'm going to change how I feel.
Yes, this is very true. And this is why um, I think it takes most of us to hit that deep, dark hole before we start changing those beliefs.
Yeah.
And I don't want everybody to go through a deep, dark hole like we've been through, to try and figure out who you are and, you know, the all the stuff that you don't know about yourself right now and the things about yourself that you don't maybe like, you know. I think when you can look back and somebody can guide you to look back and go, okay, if you want in business to guide somebody to this result, and maybe you've never done it before, that's okay. At what point in your life have you helped somebody through a similar situation? And that's what I call proof hunting. And that's what we do in the Potent Productivity Academy. We go through and we find proof that we are capable of doing what we want to do. Because that, for me, that's where most of the imposter syndrome comes from when it comes to business, especially solo business, and especially solo business that maybe you're transitioning from a career you've had into a new direction and you don't quite know how the two things fit together. So you think you're very new at this new thing, but you're not taking all of the skills and all of the experience you have along with you and translating it into something amazing. You're going, well, I'm just stopped doing that, and now I'm doing this, and I've done this for 2 seconds, and I've done this for 40 years. you know. So it's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So going back and looking at your life and finding the proof that you need to believe in yourself about those things that are causing you doubt, that's proof to yourself that you are behaving in the right way, that aligns with those values and all that you just spoke about. And I think it's really powerful when you do that because you learn so much about yourself
Mm.
and you learn that your uniqueness, what makes you you, and we've said loads of times on this show and loads of times before this show that nobody has been through life in the same way you have. So you are an expert in your own life, and nobody can take that away from you. And how you do things is totally different to how somebody else would do things. Robert, you and I could explain the same thing completely differently. Some people
Yes.
will like my way, some people will like your way. And oftentimes, what happens is a bit of you and a bit of me, and we meet together, and then people like more of it. So it really does matter that you own and like who you are. That's why I call myself Sensei Sarah. It's a joke because people used to tease me for being sensible Sarah when I was a child. And I decided to take ownership of being sensible because who doesn't like a sensible mentor? Somebody who's reliable, turns up on time, says what they're going to do. All those things matter to me. And I can take ownership of those things instead of feeling like it was a bad thing. So it's really important that when you do that, when you take ownership, when you know yourself, you like yourself, and you trust yourself, that you can move people forwards in what they're struggling with because they're not feeling that uncertainty from you anymore. They're not feeling that lack of clarity from you anymore because you can explain to them, hey, I did this. We come up with examples all the time from our lives of different scenarios, different business situations. And they might not be anything related to what we're talking about. Like I was talking about the dog the other week, my experience with training the dog and how that helped me learn certain things. It doesn't matter where your experience came from.
Right. Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you for sharing all of that. Absolutely. And I just want to parallel a couple things, when you say proof hunting,
Hmm.
and I use the word databases,
Hmm.
right? So it's like it's important to fill the databases
Hmm.
with that information. So when I go and I look, it's like, oh wow, I've got all these life experiences of being successful. I have all these life experiences, of doing all these things and everything else like that are going to make me feel a certain way.
Hmm.
But I think it's important to recognize that, that I need to know that I am more than just a category. More than just my success. If I'm using success as my only judgment for feeling good about myself, I've
Hmm.
set myself up for disappointment.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let me can I walk us through an example? Do you mind?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, um, are you a successful person, Sarah?
Yes. I didn't used to think
Have you
so,
ever,
but I can
but
say
let
that with
me ask,
absolute confidence now.
great, but let me ask you this question. Have you ever failed at anything?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you failed, how can you be a success?
Because I learned
Right?
something. Yeah.
Well, and this isn't like to challenge it. This is like, wow, it's like now I know what failure is. I have a clear idea of what success is, and I have a clear idea how to hold myself authentically on a path of success. So just because I did an unkind thing 5 years ago or 10 minutes ago, I don't know, doesn't mean that I'm an unkind person.
No.
It just means that I have more clarity about what kindness is and unkindness, what success is and what failure is, and I can use those in a very judicial way to help me make better decisions that are in alignment with my values so that when I take action, my behaviors, right? Now we've got alignment. I'm going to feel good.
Hmm.
I'm not waiting for a result in order to feel good about myself. And
Yeah.
that's what we do as solopreneurs so many times. I'll feel good when blah, blah, blah. When I get the
Uh,
next client, then I can celebrate. Then I can feel good. It's like you might wait 5 years before you let yourself feel good. I'm excited, but I mean, that's the
mhm.
truth.
Yeah.
So, what rules have you put upon yourself that are determining when you're actually allowed to feel good and not? Those
Hmm.
are the values, rules, beliefs, call them what you will. But when we do that to ourselves and we're not feeling the way we want to feel or feel the way we think we should be feeling, it's just a simple examination. And you mentioned earlier, about getting help. And this is something you absolutely want to coach with.
Hmm.
Sarah and I have been coaching for a long, long time. And, not tooting our horns, but a little bit, because we get great results. That's why we're doing this.
Yeah.
And sometimes, some people think that, oh, if I ask for help, there must be something really wrong with me. No, that where do we get that idea from?
Hmm.
It's like a step, you're taking that a coach is a step to the next level of your life. How is that
Yeah.
a bad thing?
Mm. Yeah.
It's a great thing.
Absolutely.
I
Yes,
have a coach, you have a coach, I
I
have more
do.
than one coach, you have more than one coach,
Yeah.
and it's like, why not? Because I'm trying to make the best
Hmm.
that I can.
Yeah.
And to think that I can do it all. Oh, wait, where did we hear that before? Oh, stop doing it all. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Do you know, I
but
think I
when
wrote a book on that.
yeah, and so when I convince myself that it's all up to me,
Mhm.
I set myself up for because I don't know all the answers. And when I
No.
think I don't know the answers, then I feel like there's something wrong, like I'm stupid. It's like, wait a minute, I'm not a nuclear physicist. I don't know anything about nuclear science, so how can I feel, et
Mhm.
cetera? It's a bad example, maybe, but I mean, the point is like I have to recognize that the language, the self-talk that I'm using to justify or make reasons about how I feel about myself may not be accurate.
Mm,
And if you're going to have doubt, Sarah, doubt the doubt.
yes.
And because I can ask myself, is that really true for me
Hmm.
right now? And I love that question. Is that really true? Because I convince myself that something is unshakably true that's just not.
Hmm.
But if I don't allow myself to question it, I'm never going to get beyond it.
I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and she said to me she'd heard the phrase, when you believe something about yourself, ask the
Mm.
question, who said that?
Yes. Great question.
Yeah, I love it. I was just like, oh yeah, because if I can if the answer to that question for me is nobody, then I'm clearly just making it up. And it's just something I believe about myself. It's not that anybody actually said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Great.
Awesome.
Boy, we talked a lot about we talked about a lot of deep stuff today.
Oh,
Wow.
we did, but that's the point, no?
Yeah, it is. We want to unravel this tangled skein of yarn inside of ourselves and get some
Yeah.
alignment going on so that we can not just feel good about ourselves, but feel good about the work we love doing.
Yeah, and
And
it's
more.
it's so interesting to me that there are hundreds and hundreds of solo business owners that I've worked with. Every single problem that they have in their business comes back to how they feel about themselves.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, like, and trust yourself, it will cause you so many problems in your business that you don't even know about, or you'll end up with a business that you actually hate
Yeah.
because you're pretending.
Yes.
People will expect you to behave a certain way, and you'll have to pretend to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Who wants to do that? So, what's your
I
big
used
takeaway
to.
from today, Robert?
Don't fake it till you make it.
No, please don't do that. No.
Don't fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
No.
So for me, there's two. One is that customers need clarity and certainty and confidence from you. So you need to fill those things first,
Yeah.
um, because they need to know those things about who you are and what you're offering. So the
Yeah.
second thing really ties into that, and that is know, like, and trust yourself first.
Yeah. I love it. It's fantastic. So, folks, tell us what's going on. Tell
Mm,
us what you relate to from this conversation. We go deep for a reason and, go deep with us. We invite you here. It's a safe space. It's a great place to explore what's happening, what's working, what's not working, and most importantly, how to fix it.
absolutely. Yeah. And we're all learning together. We are not standing here going, oh, we've got all the answers. Actually, we're just human beings too, and we're learning too. And you might have a point of view that we don't know about. So share what's happening with you. We'll all share ideas together and we'll all grow together. That's the point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Love it. Thank you, Sarah. Till next time.
Yeah. If you want to make sure you don't miss out on another episode, then make sure you go to potentproductivitypodcast.com and then it will send you to the links wherever you can get your podcast and you can subscribe from there. So we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Cheers.